And joining us now is Miri Eisin, Senior Fellow at the International Institute for Counter Terrorism. Miri, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Miri, I'd like to begin with the ceasefire with Lebanon. Despite minor violations, we've just experienced the first rocket-free weekend from the Northern Front in nearly 14 months. In your view, how sustainable is this ceasefire?
It's sustainable because Hezbollah wants the ceasefire. I feel that we've actually been underplaying how much Hezbollah has been hit, how much they needed the ceasefire, how much they wanted to stop. They do not have an interest now in reopening the front. Right now, they're not just licking their wounds. They need to keep whatever force they still have left, and that's why it is sustainable, because they have an interest in it.
Now, how crucial do you think is the continued presence of the IDF in South Lebanon at the moment in order to maintain this ceasefire?
So the presence itself of the Israeli Defense Forces, mainly infantry troops in southern Lebanon, is very near the Israeli border. It's 5-6 kilometers. It isn't deep into Lebanon. And in that area, as being showed, is where they exposed the really incomprehensible arsenals that the Radwan force and the other Hezbollah elite forces down south had ready to do an October 7th attack. We uncovered that. The question now is not about our being down there. It's about the capability to stop a new flow of weapons into the south of Lebanon. And in that sense, I think right now, at the moment, it's something very sustainable. I don't think that we need long-term the IDF troops to stop the flow of weapons. That's something that needs to be done in a different way.
Now, what challenges does the IDF face in balancing monitoring violations on the one hand and avoiding escalation on the other hand?
Again, I think that because Hezbollah has such an interest in not at this stage, reopening the front that they opened on October 8th, 2023, a year and 2 months ago. I would say that because of that, it's easier to keep a balance. In this case, one of the things that the IDF has to look at is about the issue of Israeli different aerial platforms flying over Lebanon, something that we did freely over the last year and 2 months. And as part of the ceasefire agreement, it was agreed that Israel would not do so. And in this case, I think that's the only one where it slightly may inhibit some of what Israel does. But in today's capabilities, it doesn't make such a big difference. And as such, we should be able to sustain it and keep it. The biggest challenge is right now to make sure that that flow of weapons that the Iranians want to send back into Hezbollah does not get into Lebanon and in Lebanon down to the south.
Do you, Miri, believe in all honesty that residents of the north can safely return home at this time?
So as I've put to myself and to my dear friends who live up north, I think that they can return home. I also think, Sivan, that they need to realize, and all of us need to, that they live in a border area. They don't live in the center of Israel. It has its absolute amazing area. I love it up north. And having said that, I can't say that there won't be anything. I do think that Hezbollah is heavily degraded, especially in the area right next to the border, that for Hezbollah now to do anything against a civilian area in Israel would bring the wrath, not just of the IDF, but of the world against them, and they don't want to start that. So yes, it's about mutual deterrence, but I breathe in deep, and I do think that they can go home.
That's encouraging to hear. Now, with the resurgence of rebel activity in Syria, how might this fighting impact Israel's border security? Should Israel be worried about weapons spillovers or other kind of threats?
So for the 10 years before, when I was constantly talking about the war in Syria, that kind of dwindled out in 2020, almost 4 years ago, but it went on for almost a decade. I was always worried about the aspect that my enemy's enemy inside Syria is not Israel's friend, meaning right now, the rebels against Bashar Assad are extreme jihadists. We understand what that means. They come out of Al-Qaeda affiliated groups. They come out of Islamic State affiliated groups. Some of them are slightly less extreme, but it isn't that the enemy of my enemy does us good. Having said that, what the onslaught of these different rebel groups, because there's more than one group that's fighting right now, what it has shown very clearly is the weakness of Hezbollah, is the weakness of what we call the resistance arena, that sense, both the Iranian-backed Al-Quds forces, the different Shiite forces, because that's what the rebels have been attacking up north, in addition to Bashar al-Assad's forces. Up there you had Hezbollah fighters that were the ones that were training and helping. They're not there. And look at how much those rebels managed to do in the 2 days. I wouldn't say goodbye to Bashar al-Assad yet, but this is not bad news for us.
Miri Eisin, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.